Hi, I'm Paul Edwards, author of the Mourner's Woods books, and first and foremost, a monster kid. Tonight I'm reading Famous Monsters of Filmland, issue 101 from 1973. I thought you might enjoy flipping through this vintage magazine with me. Together, let's see what kinds of monster kid goodness is in here. All right. First of all, this video on Famous Monsters of Filmland, issue 101, which features Tom Tyler as Captain Marvel, better known as Shazam, on the cover, I have to dedicate to Queen Glamazon 87, one of my viewers who made a note in another video about Tom Tyler, this actor, how she liked his portrayal of the mummy in The Mummy's Hand, and noted that he also had played Captain Marvel in this serial. So Queen, here you go. There's Tom Tyler for you. And this is a super special issue, too. Nice. Now I'm looking at these covers to see which ones I have. I have most of them. Not this, though. I don't have the Frogs one. Oh, great. Something else I got to hit up eBay for. All right. Of course, Dark Shadows. There's Barnabas Collins. Wake up to famous monsters. Doesn't everyone? Yikes. Wow. She'd make a good girlfriend for Two-Face from Batman. All right, let's see what we get here. This is not going to be the Dracula 2000 that I think of when I hear Dracula 2000. Not the movie Dracula 2000. All right. Oops. Wait a minute. Oh. Oh. This magazine was always good about memorializing the deaths of people who contributed to the genre. Actors, writers, directors, special effects wizards. Well, Claude Rains, of course, had played the Invisible Man. And he had also played Sir John Talbot in the Wolfman. There he is in a publicity still from the Wolfman. This is Claude Rains with Lon Chaney Jr. and Evelyn Ankers. That's a great picture of the Wolfman. There he is as Sir John, tying up his son Larry, who he thinks is delusional in his fears that he's a werewolf. Of course, the audience knows it's true. I remember this, too. Battle of the Worlds. Yeah. He was an eccentric scientist who was investigating an extraterrestrial invasion. Shazam. If you're a younger viewer, you probably know this character as Shazam because they just started calling him Shazam now. Back when the character came out in the 1940s, the character, the superhero, was called Captain Marvel. But that's now confusing because Marvel Comics has a Captain Marvel. Now, Shazam is an anagram. The way that it's usually listed is that Shazam stands for Wisdom of Solomon, S, Strength of Hercules, H, Stamina of Atlas, Power of Zeus, the Courage of Achilles, and the Speed of Mercury, which are all traits that Captain Marvel has. But the way I learned it when I was a kid was all the same, except that it was the invulnerability of Achilles here, not the courage of Achilles, but the invulnerability of Achilles. which makes more sense because Achilles was invulnerable except for the weak spot in his heel. But, you know, people talk about the Achilles heel, but you overlook the fact that other than that, he was invulnerable. And Captain Marvel's invulnerable. So I thought it made more sense that it was the invulnerability of Achilles. But what do I know? Anyway, when Captain Marvel came out, in the comic strip was titled Shazam. It was hugely popular. It was actually, Shazam's comic books outsold Superman comic books until there was a lawsuit. They were suing, saying that Shazam was a ripoff of Superman, and they won the lawsuit, which put an end to Shazam for, I forget, like 20 years or something. And then finally, the rights to the characters of the Shazam property were bought by DC Comics, so they had the character for themselves, and then they brought Captain Marvel back in the 1970s when I was a kid. But so in the early 40s, Captain Marvel was immensely popular, as popular as Superman. Yeah, see, here they have this again. Captain Marvel on the job. All right. So now what they've done with this character in the 21st century is that they've just started calling the character Shazam. And they're letting Marvel Comics use the name Captain Marvel for their Captain Marvel. But honestly, as a child of the 1970s, that's totally fine with me because we all called this character Shazam anyway. Hardly anyone really called it Captain Marvel. Do that though. Haha. There you go, Queen. Tom Tyler's beginning. Two-Fisted Tom was born Vincent Markowski on August 9th, 1903 in Port Henry, New York, but grew up in Detroit, Michigan, where as a teenager, he began to develop an interest in acting. Tom left home and struck out for Hollywood. Wow. Okay. So, there's his origin story. Oh. Here he is, flying high. All right, now for something a lot darker. The Pit and the Pendulum, one of the Edgar Allan Poe based movies that Roger Corman made with Vincent Price in the 1960s. The Poe's stories were short, so what they did was they wrote movie scripts that were based on or inspired by a Poe story. So there was a lot in this movie, Pit and the Pendulum, that is not in the Edgar Allan Poe story, although it keeps the same basic vibe. Oh, getting pretty good press for this movie here. That's creepy. Oh. So, I don't know about you, but as far as actors who have played Blofeld, James Bond's archenemy, my favorite by far is Donald Pleasence. My second favorite would be Christopher Waltz in the modern James Bond movies. But Donald Pleasence had it. He was so creepy. He only played Blofeld in the one Bond movie. He only lived twice. But it was very memorable. Yep. Oh my gosh. Remember this thing? The assemble it yourself helicopter. The Unknown, our greatest mystery photo. Well, I know this is Werewolf of London. That's Henry Hull as the Werewolf of London. This, The Great God Pan, but I don't recognize what it's from. Gosh. Karloff in the Old Dark House. Dialogue Diabolique. Okay, can you tell which of our favorite horror or monster movies this is from? So let's just pick one. To New Worlds of Gods and Monsters. That's kind of easy. That's Bride of Frankenstein. Let's try this one. I have here a collection of the world's most astounding horrors. That stumps me. But here are the answers. Oh, duh, of course. It's the real Professor Lampini in House of Frankenstein when they're in the carriage. Okay. This is pretty easy. Actually, there's two correct answers to this. It reminds me of the broken battlements of my own castle in Transylvania. Well, they mean Bela Lugosi playing Dracula in 1931. But also, you would be correct if you said that it was the girls saying this when they were imitating Dracula, when Mina and Lucy were talking about Dracula after they had met him. They imitate him. And one of them repeats that same line. The Projected Man. Oh, science gone too far. Oh. There's another Two-Face look-alike. It's the second one in this magazine. Oh my gosh. Ugh. Cold cream could have saved this girl. Even hot cream. Yikes. Dracula 2000. This is not the Dracula 2000 that I know. This is a reader short story, I think. Yep. Yeah, I've seen this before. But we do get some good pictures from our Dracula. There's Lon Chaney Jr. going full Nicolas Cage in the Cyclops. Yeah. I grew up knowing this movie as The Spider, but most of you probably know it as Earth versus the Spider. This was one of the giant bug movies of the 50s. One thing I like about this movie is that they don't even try to explain the fact that there's a 30-foot-long tarantula. Instead of coming up with some half-baked pseudoscience explanation, they just give you the monster and there you go. I've done that in a couple of my Mourner's Woods books. Just, here's the monster. Deal with it. The Amazing Colossal Man and the Cyclops, very similar. And I know you probably think the Cyclops was a ripoff, but actually, no. The Cyclops came first. The Cyclops came before the Amazing Colossal Man. This is from, here they bill it as the Spider. That's the way I knew it, but Earth versus the Spider. Beginning of the End, of course. Another 1950s giant bug movie. the attack of Mr. Black, as in Black Lagoon. See, now, I think this was a misstep in The Creature Walks Among Us, the third creature from the Black Lagoon movie. So the creature was badly burned, and in order to save its life, the scientists had to perform a radical operation, which significantly changed the face of the creature. And I just didn't care for it. I never have. Because the first creature from the Black Lagoon costume was so good. Any messing with it would have been a misstep. Yeah, I also didn't like the fact that they somewhat domesticated the creature in this movie to the point where he really wasn't even a threat to human beings if he wasn't provoked. That just seemed out of character to me. Here's a movie title I love. Frankenstein Must Be Destroyed. Did any of you ever send away for any of these home movie reels where you could watch a reel of film with highlights from one of your favorite monster movies? The only time I sent away for one was that I sent away for the Destroy All Monsters one. And it was $10 plus like $2.50 or something for shipping. And I waited a long time, and then in the mail, I got a refund check back. It says, we're out of Destroy All Monsters. Here's your $10 back. But they kept the shipping. So I did not have a good experience with that. If we had ever known back in the 70s that someday we could just buy any movie we wanted, you know, on videotape and then DVD and then Blu-ray, or have downloads of it, we would have been astonished. New horror films with their own soundtracks. But, oh, well, I guess some of these were relatively new. Yeah, okay, that's fair. Not all of them, but some of them. You know what I'm surprised they never advertised in here? Viewmasters. Remember Viewmasters? Well, if you don't Google it, it's kind of hard to explain. It was a 3D picture viewer. Oh, gosh. Books to drive a stake through your light heart. Oh my gosh. That's brutal. Or hardcover books of horror and fantasy. I don't know what to choose. Or moving mechanical prehistoric animal. I had the Ankylosaurus. Horrific undead skeletons. This was the original Pirates of the Caribbean, before the movies with Johnny Depp. I was always interested in these, but I never actually got one. Ooh, Spook Show. Superheroes is back. Superheroes are back? But the magazine is Superheroes, so I guess it is Superheroes is back. Okay, fair enough. Oh, these are record albums. I see. I'm looking at the Edgar Allan Poe ones here. Yeah. See, now you can just go right here on YouTube. You can look up, you know, probably 30 different versions of The Telltale Heart being read to you and just listen to that. But you didn't have that ability in the old days. So buying them on record made a lot of sense. All right, closing with the Wolfman. That's always good. Whoa. Yikes. So this is kind of cryptic because this is just some images from Famous Monsters of Filmland covers and the logo Famous Monsters of Filmland. And no other text. Go figure. Listen, if you're a fan of vintage horror and classic monsters, you should check out my book series, the Mourner's Woods books. Japan has its suicide forest. Mourner's Woods is America's homicide forest. It's a haunted wilderness in the American heartland where a new cast of characters in each novel enters this forbidden wilderness and encounters a new supernatural or unworldly threat. I've got a giant bug one, I've got a zombie one, I've got a monster versus monster one, swamp monster one. Check them out. I'll drop a link to the books in the description on this video. Meanwhile, thanks for spending some time looking through Famous Monsters of Filmland issue 101 with me. This was a good one. I'll see you in Mourner's Woods.